So the first meeting face-to-face with our wonderful playwrights is going to happen now. And I'm going to invite up on stage dramatikere. You can sit here. And dramatikere, he understands English perfectly well, but you know, just to shape his form, he's brought an English voice to follow him. So please come on stage. And if you can give us your name so we can know who. Adelheid is going to be dramatikers voice. And then I would like to invite Jörg Menke-Peitzmeier. If you could come on stage, please. Sit there. And of course, at the end, we're going to have our friend Diego Rodriguez. Come on. At the end, yeah. Of the spirit of not maybe all the writing, but at least the piece that we are going to have at this festival. And I'm going to start with you, Björn, because we just saw your piece, didn't we? Yes. We saw our deputation cast. Yeah.
No.
No.
Yes, at first I have to apologize my very bad English.
Yes, but you have your voice.
I'm very happy that Adelheid is here tonight.
And then you can
help me. But I tried in German. It's better.
Try it in German. It's better.
Das war. Wir haben nicht das ganze Stück gesehen.
Nicht das ganze Stück.
We didn't see the whole piece.
Es fehlte ein ganz wichtiger Teil.
There was an important part which was lacking.
In dem Stück gibt es zu der Geschichte, die erzählt wird, eine Ebene von 4 Charakteren.
In the history that is told in the piece, there is a level of 4 characters.
Die viel mehr dokumentarisch angelegt sind.
Which are exposed much more documentary style.
Ja, und es geht um das Thema Abschiebung.
And the theme is deportation.
Es gibt einen Anwalt.
There is a lawyer.
Eine Sachbearbeiterin von der Ausländerbehörde.
What is Sachbearbeiterin? Person who does the paperwork for the
Sachbehandler.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And ein Arzt, der die Abschiebung
begleitet. A physician,
begleitet.
a doctor who is together with the people during the traveling, the deportation.
Ja. Und eine Aktivistin von einer NGO, die die Abschiebung beobachtet.
And there's an NGO activist who is observing the deportation.
Und das Entscheidende an dem Stück, the most important thing ist, dass die eigentlich nur 4 Schauspieler 12 Rollen spielen.
Yes, the most important thing is that there are only 4 actors, but they are playing 12 roles.
Yes. Und jeder Schauspieler hat 3 Rollen.
And each actor has 3 roles.
Und er muss immer wechseln zwischen verschiedenen Standpunkten.
And they have to jump between the different standings.
Und das ist das eigentliche Thema des Stückes. Welche Haltung kann ich als Schauspieler zu dem Thema Abschiebung einnehmen und welche Rolle kann ich am besten spielen, welche fällt mir schwer und welche fällt mir nicht schwer.
And the real theme of the piece is which attitude can I as an actor have to the different roles, and which role is the most easy or the most difficult for me to play.
Und in dieser Version, die mir sehr gut gefallen hat heute Abend,
and this version which I really liked tonight,
fehlt die politische Komponente des Themas.
And what is missing is the political component of the theme.
Und zwar die Frage danach, wer organisiert Abschiebung und welches Gesetz steht hinter diesem persönlichen Schicksal dieser Figur Exxon zum Beispiel.
And that's the question: who is organizing the deportation? Which law is applied to this deportation? And the third was the persönliche.
Ja, welcher Zusammenhang besteht zwischen dem Gesetz und der persönlichen Geschichte?
Yes, what is the connection between the law and the personal history?
Und das ist die Frage nach Verantwortung und nach Schuld.
And then you have the question for responsibility and guilt.
Und vielleicht noch ein Satz, one more sentence about, und ich glaube, das ist das eigentlich zentrale Thema auch für das Publikum.
And I think the real central theme also for the audience is
Welche Haltung habe ich zu dem Thema Abschiebung?
which attitude do I have towards the issue of deportation?
Und ich glaube, dass das gerade, also in Deutschland ist es ein großes Thema.
And especially in Germany, it's a big issue.
Es ist die Frage, wer wollen wir sein als Europäer?
And you have the question, who do we want to be as Europeans?
Wer darf dazugehören?
Who is allowed to belong
Und wer darf nicht dazugehören?
and who is not?
Und eine besondere Frage in Deutschland in diesem Thema, weil es um die Abschiebung von Roma ging,
And a special question in Germany concerning this issue is, and it, especially because it's dealing with the deportation of Roma,
ja, ist, dass meine Großelterngeneration
the generation of my grandparents.
Verantwortlich sind für den Tod von über 500.000 Menschen dieser Minderheit.
They are responsible for the death of more than 500,000 people of this minority.
Und heute sind sie nicht bereit, oder ist unser Land nicht bereit,
And today our country is not willing
diesen Leuten uneingeschränktes Asyl zu gewähren.
to give those people unrestricted asylum.
Yeah.
Ja, that's
Yes. That's it. So, all my questions are answered. Anybody else has some questions? There are some very linked themes between your play and Jörn's play as well. I don't know if you. Tomorrow we're going to see reading of the Getug, and it also have that kind of theme of deportation. And it's not only, like Björn's play, it's not only a play about those, or the one, in this case, the one person being deported, but also a play about those who are deporting him. Not only about the ones being forced to leave, but also the ones staying behind. I don't know if you could comment something on Björn's.
Yeah, the
thoughts.
play is based on a story I read in a German news magazine. And first of all, I thought it's a good story. It's about a boy, 18 years old, who was sent one day he was born in Germany. And as a son of Lebanese parents, at least that's what they told him. But the parents originally came from Mardin, that's an area in south of Turkey, close to the border to Syria. And when there was the war in the Lebanon in the 80s, a lot of people from that area in Turkey threw away their passports. In this area, people still speak Arabic, came to Germany pretending to be Arabic so that they could stay in Germany. And German government found out this lie and sent them back, including this boy. So that's what I read in the news magazine, and the first thing.
But he was brought up himself thinking that he was
Yeah,
Lebanese.
yeah, and I thought it's a good story. Yeah, it's a story first of all, you know, and I was, to be honest, I was much more interested in the subject of identity than in the political circumstances. So you have to imagine this boy is going to school as a Lebanese guy, coming home, there is a letter from the Ausländerbehörde, the Foreign Office for Foreign Affairs.
Foreign Office, yeah.
Oh, I'm a Lebanese guy, so he's going in the afternoon to the football training as a Turkish guy. And in the age of 18, when you're struggling with your identity, it's something special, something else. So I was more, is for me, I just wrote this play, is the center of the play.
So you can also see the center of the play in your plays, the brother and the sister, right? They are sort of the core, the heart, or the nave, the engine in the play. And then all the others are like circles around them, the father, the mother, the boyfriend's father, the boyfriend's father's girlfriend, and then, of course, the whole system around it. But still, it's like in Jörn's play, there is a kind of sort of emotional story about two young people at the core of your play as well.
Yes, it is.
Now we can change the language if you want.
Yes. Das Interessante finde ich das Wort System,
To me, the interesting thing is the word system,
weil das System im Kleinen beginnt
Because the system starts in a little place
und es wächst und wächst und wächst.
and grows and grows and grows.
Und man findet,
growing.
was ich interessant finde, in dem kleinen System dieselben Strukturen wie im großen System.
And what's interesting to me is that in the little system you find the same structures as in the big system.
Das sind die Strukturen von mangelnder Verantwortung,
That are the structures of lack of responsibility.
es zeigt sich eine große Schwäche des Einzelnen,
Great weakness of the singular person.
aus dem System auszubrechen, in das man hineingeboren ist.
The weakness to break out of that system which you are born into.
Und interessant war für mich, dass meine Protagonisten, also was sie sagte, die beiden jungen Leute,
And to me it was especially interesting that my protagonists, as you said, the two young people,
junge Leute waren.
that they were young people.
Ich habe mich daran erinnert, als ich 16 oder 17 war,
I remember when I was 16 or 17,
und ich habe mir vorgestellt, wie ich mich selbst betrachten würde heute.
and I imagined how I would consider or look at myself today.
Und ich hätte mich aus der damaligen Perspektive verurteilt.
And in my perspective from then, I would condemn myself
Weil ich so angepasst,
because I was so, vad sa jag saying? Tillpassad på engelska.
Yeah, so blasé or so
Yeah.
So
adjusted to the
compliant.
system.
Adjusted
So
to the
Compliant,
system,
yeah,
yes.
I was-
yeah, compliant is a very
Compliant.
good. Compliant is
I found it the word.
Und ich hätte mich dafür verurteilt, dass ich politisch nicht aktiv genug bin.
I would have condemned myself for not being politically active enough.
Und als junger Mensch, und deswegen finde ich auch Theater mit und für Jugendliche interessant, hat man so einen Furor von Veränderungswillen.
And the thing which makes it especially interesting for me with theater for young people is that when you are young, you have a special overflow of will to make changes.
Und das fand ich, deswegen habe ich diese Figuren gewählt für dieses Thema,
And
weil
therefore I chose those characters for this subject.
Es einen wahnsinnig macht, wenn man darüber nachdenkt,
Because it can turn you crazy when you start when you keep thinking about
dass in Deutschland und eigentlich in ganz Europa, also in dem ganzen Dublin II-Abkommen-Raum, tagtäglich genau solche Abschiebungen stattfinden.
when you think about that in whole Europe and Germany and Europe in the Dublin II area that there are taking place that kind of deportations every day.
Und nur ganz wenige Menschen was dagegen tun.
And there are very few people who really do something about it.
So we have this circle of systems. I visited a theatre called Yes Theatre in Jenin. They work in community work theatre, puppet theatre, very basic theatre, and also do their own productions. And they said that their work was about the circles of control, they called it. The first circle of control is your own mind. The second one is the family. Then is the neighborhood. Then is the community around your neighborhood. Then there's the religion. Then is the system of law and police. And then is the occupation, of course, because Jenin is an occupied territory. So in a way, the same kind of way you are thinking. And that the only way to break out is to break all those circles. If you don't break all of them, then you will soon be back in the same kind of situation. And they also said that young people probably have a bigger chance of this than they had themselves. But the thing is, maybe with your character, that the circle isn't broken. I mean, here you have a young guy, he's Lebanese, of course his family is, but he's brought up German. I mean, he's a German boy, really. He's more German than Lebanese, and then he ends up being Turkish. I mean, it's the triple kind of, of role play, and all happening in one day. And he decides to split with his family, so he breaks the circle, and he's on the run, and then he finds himself in, you call it, there's some wonderful, like in Björn's play, there's some wonderful prose or I mean dramatic prose going on in some of the monologues, and he explains, this young guy, he explains that this captivity that he ends up in before he is deported, he calls it a 9-month pregnancy or a
In the prison, yeah.
in the prison, yeah. And then, of course, then he's sent out. So we have this situation that we have a young person who doesn't stay with his family like your siblings, but actually breaks away and are one of those free-ranging young men without identity. Is that also a theme there, kind of? A rebel without a cause in a way.
Yeah, I was reading this play again in the plane. Normally, I don't know, as a writer, you don't read your plays all the time. So I read it in the plane
It's a strange experience.
in order to prepare myself for this evening. And I wrote it 3-4 years ago, and I was thinking, come on, you wrote this, you were serious about this. There's one scene in the plane when the boy is sent from Berlin to Istanbul, and you also mentioned it. There's a policeman always sitting next to him, having an eye on him, and the policeman says to the boy, "What's your problem, man? You're 18 years old, you're going to Istanbul, to one of the most amazing cities in the world." And he starts to sing this very famous German song, "I was never been to New York, I never walked through San Francisco in torn jeans." It was supposed to be cynical or something when I wrote it 3-4 years ago, but I was thinking today, come on, boy, I give you a hug and go and take that risk and make your life in Istanbul.
Yeah,
That's also
a part of it.
yeah, it's also part of it, yeah, because it's not that easy that the bad German government sent this boy back. It's not that easy, that story. You know.
Yeah, I got other complex layers. Yeah,
Ja,
please.
ich glaube, es ist ein sehr komplexes Thema.
I think that's a very complex issue.
Also im Vergleich zu dieser Geschichte ist es tatsächlich, wäre es zynisch, einem jungen Roma zu sagen, hey, nimm's in die Hand und mach dein Leben in Pristina, weil in Pristina lebt er auf der Müllkippe.
Compared to the history you are drawing, it would be cynical to say to a Roma, hey, take your destiny into your own hands and make your life in Pristina, because in Pristina he's living on the garbage pile.
Und,
So, I mean, there's probably not that kind of future for them that they can have in Pristina that our young man possibly could have in Istanbul.
ja, es ist wirklich ein großer Unterschied und
Yes,
das
a
macht
big difference.
auch das Thema so, das macht das Thema so kompliziert.
And that makes the subject so complicated.
Und deswegen nochmal, um auf den Anfang zurückzukommen, war es heute Abend eigentlich sehr schade, dass die Monologe nicht in dem Stück waren, weil darum geht es in diesen Monologen, dass man plötzlich, genau wie du das beschrieben hast, auch die Perspektive verstehen kann, dass jemand für Abschiebung ist und es noch schwieriger wird, sich als Einzelner zu entscheiden und eine Haltung zu haben.
So, therefore, it's especially a pity that, just to return to the beginning, I regret very much that the monologues were cut, because they give you the different perspectives, and it's especially difficult for the singular person to take those different perspectives, and suddenly you have also to take a perspective of a person who is pro-deportation.
Exactly. We will return to it. I'm also going to mention that there is 2 characters besides the characters of the young boy escaping and his immediate friends and people following on the plane and so on. There's also 2 other characters, Ulrike and Tostmann.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to return to that at the end, but because I want to visit another little hero here at the end with Tiago. So just to bring her into the equation as well, the giraffe.
Yeah.
But we will return again to Trustman and Ulrike and these circles of the state around the human being. But so we have the 2 siblings, yeah, all of a sudden in Pristina, right?
Yeah.
So we place them there, and then we have a young Turkish lion somewhere in one of those hubs of the big cities of Europe, right? New life, possibly. Tragic or bad, we don't know. And then we have the giraffe, she's also going on a journey. I mean, she's on her expedition, but
Yeah, she's home.
she's not a hero without a cause. She has a cause. I mean, tell us something
Yeah,
about it.
well,
Who is she, first of all? The giraffe.
Well, it's a 9-year-old. It's in the program. I mean,
But you see, not everybody's read it,
It's,
so let's start there and then we can evolve.
there's a reading tomorrow. Just
Yeah.
come. No, but she's a 9-year-old, and when I explain it, it's even worse than the piece. But I try not to explain, because actually I think when I hear this conversation, I find this very interesting. The conversation and also the coincidence of subject between your pieces. And what I think is very interesting when we're talking about all these phenomena, which are social phenomena, and at the same time we mix this up with, it's a nice story. When these worlds sort of mix and collide, this, our daily life and the politics of our daily life, and then our, intimacy and our thrill with theater and writing and words and stories and myths, and when these things get together, I always have to ask myself if it's not more about complicating than explaining. So I have a hard time with explaining my piece, also because my piece doesn't really explain anything, but it tries to complicate something so that you have a problem. As a spectator, I realize, because also when I'm writing or working with actors, it's always about not really like we totally understand the problem and we have to find a solution. It's more about let's find the right problem, to share or something. So she's 9. She doesn't have a name. She's, I don't know why she's 9. It's because my daughter was 9 when I wrote the play, I think. Doesn't have to do that I did a research on how do 9-year-olds think or talk. They think better, I think. That's it.
She's
Simpler.
certainly,
I mean,
she's
she's 9, but she's like a dictionary.
Yeah.
She's one of those children that tries to talk with very complicated words. She's trying to figure out the world, so she's like a human dictionary, always trying to find meanings for stuff. And she lost her mother, we realize at a certain point, and her father is unemployed, and she wants to do a schoolwork. It's in York. There was this coincidence also with the schoolwork of is it Watchdog, the name of the play?
Watchdog, yeah.
Watchdog, eh? With Wolf and so there's this schoolwork. Is it the police already?
Yeah. They thought your explanation was so bad for
be-
your art that they just
I'm
wanted
gonna be
to.
I'm gonna be sent to Pristina or Istanbul, I think. So she wants to do a schoolwork on the life of giraffes, which is of course some strange metaphor she invents. She wants to cope with sadness and joy,
Yeah.
but she doesn't have cable TV, so she decides to run away from her house along with her suicidal teddy bear and cross Lisbon in search of someone who can get her money enough so that she can have Discovery Channel with giraffe shows for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
That's her goal. That's her
And
happiness.
she thinks that's her right. I mean, it's a just cause.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yes.
I truly believe it's her right.
Yeah.
And then she ends up meeting a lot of people, and of course it's a path towards growing up and losing innocence and in a way settling. Becoming an adult
Yeah.
and settling, and on the other way, understanding your dreams better and becoming also more radical, but on the other hand, losing a lot of innocence, and I hope that's, I mean, the play is better than the trailer, so I hope you still,
I think they both have their charms.
yeah, I hope you still want to see the reading tomorrow. That's it.
But as you say, it is facing a problem. It's not only because it's also a good story, right? A girl goes out to get the money to be able to watch Discovery Channel.
I think it's
Yes.
facing several problems, yeah. Not explaining them or finding a proper solution for them, but trying to face problems. I think that, I mean, whether we like it or not, whether it's our intention or not, when you're, doing writing or rehearsing or directing a piece, you're just, you know, you're offering something which is real. The fact that it's fiction doesn't make it less real. It's real, it's part of the world, and it's a way of thinking about the world and politics and about being human. It's just that it's so much easier for us to connect politics with intimacy, with feelings, or with you know, to connect, you know, democracy with love. That's something that, you know, politicians have a hard time doing, and lovers also. But in theater, we do it very well, and we can do it with an audience, so with an assembly. So it's actually, it's not only that we paint it or write it, the moment it happens with an assembly, so there are a lot of accomplices. It's, I think, slightly more real because there's an assembly. So I think we have a very good opportunity. So it is, in this sense, it is a piece about a few issues. I think the main issue in the piece that I shared a lot with the actors, and I must say, I mean, it's a bit unfair that it's always my name connected to the piece, because it was written together with the original cast that performed it first, and they were incredibly important, as always when I'm writing towards the making of the piece, not only giving ideas, but also throwing away my bad ideas, which are most of my ideas. I just copy. I added their nice ideas, and one of the things that was very if you want to call it like a problem that we addressed, that was very interesting for us, was the issue of not only crisis, like the economical crisis in the southern countries, in Portugal, for instance, which is, you know, really overwhelming, but something beyond that, which is like, we're very careful with, you know, you were talking about earlier with the age. Is there an age that you aim at, or when you're directing, or do you change as an actor because of the age? At a certain point, we were asking ourselves, you know, we're so careful with protecting children from, you know, explicit sex or pornography, of, you know, this extreme violence, you know. I remember when Gaddafi died, it was all over the first pages in Portugal, this very impressive picture of him dead with a lot of blood, and it was so graphic, it was pornographic, it was obscene, in a bad way. Because there's obscene in a good way, but it doesn't involve Gaddafi for me. But it was all over the first pages. Every children would walk the streets, and you have a kiosk, and there's Gaddafi dead, and you know. But in Portugal, like other countries, but in Portugal for sure, for years we had this recurrence, you know, talking about unemployment, you know, IMF, the debt, you know, the unemployment. IMF, the debt, no social security, no pensions, all these problems, you know, oh, people on the verge of hunger, oh, that's new for us again, oh, that's like 40, 50 years ago, oh, where is and children are listening to this constantly. And so how does a 9-year-old relate to money? What kind of an adult are you creating? How much of a sort of concern, I don't mean censorship, but how much concern shouldn't we have towards exposing children to this public speech on money, which is basically, it means you have to own to be happy. If you're not an owner, you're not entitled to happiness. That's like the simplistic view on how politicians, which are, you know, they're just CEOs that got votes magically, but they're CEOs. That's how they talk about money. So what kind of an adult are we creating when we talk publicly about money like this? So this was very interesting for me, and to expose this and to deal with this problem with a child that, it's, you know, like all children, they're magic, and they're inventing, and they're very poetic because they're naive, and suddenly they go like, you know, I'm gonna kill you because you're not useful for me, bye-bye. And you go like, wow, this is the rules we also produce for this child to engage with. So that was a concern of when we were, you know, starting to write the piece, and then we quickly forgot about it, but I think it's there.
It's there.
It's very present.
It's going to be very interesting for you to see tomorrow after hearing you talk about it, because it's definitely there. Maybe not in the way you expect it to be, but it's there. It's also, I mean, she's also sort of diving into the system with her little rucksack and her suicidal teddy bear. She's also sort of diving not only into this big city on her own, on this mission to get the money for Discovery Channel, but she's also diving into the system. She's like plowing through it in a way. These ski jumpers taking off the ski jump and then just going straight into it without really discovering what's going on in a way. So I think,
well, it's an adventure.
Yeah.
That's what we call it in the piece. There's a moment she decides to run away with her teddy bear, called Judy Garland, but actually he wants to be called Chekhov. And they decide to run away, and it's just a grand adventure. And then they find the mission. When they ran away, then they realize we need a mission, and then they create this mission, which is we need loads of money so that we can have Discovery Channel forever. And she ends up talking with the Prime Minister, which is actually, and that's interesting, back then it was a huge discussion in Portugal when we premiered the piece in 2011. It's actually called, it has the full name of the actual Prime Minister in Portugal, the character. And that was an argument back then, because it's so explicit in a piece that has so much fantasy. It's so explicit, like it's our actual Prime Minister. It is not. I think our character in the piece is so much more human and complex than the real Prime Minister. But it's interesting to see that we still perform it now, the piece. And when we premiered it in 2011, and if you knew the Prime Minister, you wouldn't laugh. It's not a joke. It's really like that. But when we premiered it in 2011, he was just elected, and back then it was a bit like the audience would react a bit like, ooh, they're doing this with the Prime Minister. And you'll see. I mean, when you see the reading, she goes a bit too far. The child when
Don't
she's
say
talking.
anymore.
I won't say anymore. She just crosses a few borders with him, a few limits. But today. 2.5 years later, people go like, yeah, baby, go. Hit him hard, So it's interesting how people's reaction shifted to these more explicit references in the piece, to crisis and, to lack of money and because things got visibly worse or at least more repetitive. It's more tiring. So there's a lot of kickback to those issues. But still, I think it's about loss. It's about, people dying and you having to deal with that.
And also, of course, as a work of art that you have done together with your colleagues, as you say, and not as a singular playwright, but as a part of a group leading a work. It's also a discussion on the borders between politics, aesthetics, and art, and the theatre as a play of not delivering answers, but making those questions into art. And then I want to go back to you, Björn, because I know you have some thoughts on it, of the theatre as a place for this kind of, an agora, as you call it, a Greek meeting place.
Ja, ich hatte eben eine gute Idee.
I just got a good idea.
Ich habe einen neuen Charakter erfunden.
Yeah, I invented a new character.
Angela Merkel.
Fantastic.
Angela Merkel.
Bei meinem Stück Deportation Cast hat mich, um auf deine Frage zu kommen, hat mich am meisten gefreut, dass es wurde an vielen Theatern in Deutschland aufgeführt.
To come back to your question, what was delightful for me with my piece, Deportation Cast, was that it was played at many German theaters.
Und an fast allen Theatern haben sich aus den Ensembles heraus Initiativen gebildet.
And at almost every theater, out of the characters, there were formed initiatives.
Die sich mit anderen Initiativen, die es schon gibt, verbunden haben.
Who connected with other initiatives who already were existing.
Und die ihre Theaterarbeit verbunden haben mit der politischen Arbeit von politischen Kampagnen zum Beispiel.
And who then connected their theater work with the political work, for example, with the political campaigns.
Und das hat mich deswegen gefreut, weil ein großer Teil, und das war deine Frage, meiner Arbeit am Theater ist, das Theater zu öffnen. Ich habe in Deutschland an verschiedenen großen Stadttheatern gearbeitet.
And it was especially delightful for me because, and that was what I wanted to say, that one of my part of my work is to open up the theater.
Ja, das Theater zu öffnen und sozusagen sich mit politischen Themen zu verbinden
and to connect to political subjects.
Und aus dem Theater herauszugehen.
And to come out of the theater.
Zum Beispiel in verschiedene Stadtteile zu gehen, in Schulen zu gehen.
For instance, to just go into different parishes or parts of the city and into schools.
Und eigentlich die Grenze zwischen Kunst, Sozialarbeit aufzulösen.
And sort of dissolving the border between art and social work.
Und dabei entsteht eine neue Form der Kunst.
And that makes a new sort of art emerging.
Und das scheint in Deutschland zum Beispiel im Moment mir sehr wichtig zu sein.
And at the moment in Germany, at least to me, it's very important.
Weil die Theater die gesellschaftliche Entwicklung verschlafen haben.
Because the theater has slept over the social development.
In der Stadt, in der ich lebe, in München zum Beispiel,
In the city where I'm living, in Munich,
ist zum Beispiel bei den Jugendlichen im Alter von 16 oder 17 Jahren der Anteil der Migranten bei über 50%, bei fast 60%.
The migrants, there are 50 or 60% of the young people. Which age? Welches
Bei den
Alter haben
16-,
Sie?
17-Jährigen.
16 or 17 years old.
In meinem Alter sind es ungefähr 40%.
In my age, there are about 40%.
In den Theatern ist davon aber nichts zu sehen.
But you don't see anything about that in the theaters.
Die Theater sind besetzt von einer weißen, gebildeten Mittelschicht.
The theaters are occupied or busy with the white, educated mid-level.
Und ich glaube daran, dass das Theater eine Rolle spielen kann in der Entwicklung einer Einwanderungsgesellschaft.
And I believe that the theater is able to play a role in the development of an immigration society.
Indem es Räume öffnet,
By opening rooms,
wo Begegnungen stattfinden können, die sonst draußen nicht stattfinden.
where encounters can happen which won't happen outside.
Yes.
So it suits this building to talk about this, doesn't it? This actual
Yes.
house that we are in right now.
Und so Stücke, also Theaterstücke, sind für mich, für meine Arbeit nur ein kleiner Teil der ganzen Arbeit.
And to me, those pieces for theater, they're only a little part of the whole work.
I must admit, I got so involved with this talk, I forgot you guys. Not that you were here, but I was supposed to watch you and make sure that I saw that anybody wanted to say something. But we still have 15 minutes left, at least 14 minutes left. And I think this is good place actually to open for not a discussion, but if any of you want to contribute something, have some thoughts on how you find the theatre is today. Maybe the Norwegian theatre or the British theatre or the Dutch theatre is in the same state as Björn suggests here. Maybe it's not, maybe you're totally wrong. I don't know. I'm just thinking that if you have any answer, any questions, anything you would like to propose that we should go into, please feel free. Okay, anybody at the moment?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Presentation class. It's not just like that. The protagonist Edson is a boy who is thrown away from something, but he is also disabled. Well, I'm just curious, why? Why don't have a normal boy as protagonist? Why did you take that choice of having Edson telling the story?
Das geht auf eine Geschichte zurück.
That has root in a real story.
Freunde von mir haben eine Familie, die abgeschoben wurde aus Deutschland in den Kosovo, im Kosovo besucht.
friends of mine visited a family in Kosovo. The family was deported from Germany into Kosovo.
Und diese Familie hatte einen Sohn, der stumm war.
And this family had a son who was mute, yeah.
Er war traumatisiert,
He was traumatized
weil er im Jugoslawienkrieg schlimme Dinge erlebt hat und keiner wusste wirklich, was er erlebt hat.
because he had experienced terrible things before the Yugoslavia war, but nobody knew what he really had experienced.
Und die Freunde haben einen Film gedreht über diese Familie und die Schwester dieses Jungen hat immer für den Jungen gesprochen.
And those friends made a film about that family, and the sister of the boy always was the talking one for the boy, on behalf of the boy.
Und das war für mich dann wiederum der literarische Ausgangspunkt.
And that formed to me the literary starting point,
Dass eine stumme Figur eine Geschichte erzählt.
that a mute person is telling a story.
And I also think that's a very interesting thing with all of your plays when it comes to the writing, because in each of these plays there are monologues who has a very particular, very distinct language for the character, and maybe a character that you wouldn't really listen to in such great length if you writers hadn't given them a voice. So I think that's also, when you read these plays, because you have to read them, guys, look at that, look at these monologues and how these young people can express themselves in a way that's quite aesthetically moving, I think, also with Jörn's play.
Yeah, I'm wondering about this with the audience. How has the play met the audience, especially a young audience? How have they been received? Or,
Should we do circle?
yeah.
Yeah, go first.
Yes.
I didn't write it for a young audience. I just wrote it. It was very well received. It's still being received. It's a piece we've been touring in Portugal for a while already. We're very happy with it. I look there because Magda, which also took part in the piece, which is in the company with me, is also here, and it's one of the pieces we're very proud of. We present it always when we show this particular version of it, this show that we created. It's just like a piece. We realized in the beginning, because it's based upon the imaginary of a child. I mean, there is this sort of first layer of language, which is, this is all seen by the eyes of this 9-year-old that talks this way, and so everybody in the piece also talks in a certain way, not her way, but every character has a different way of talking, because you imagine that she invented the language for all of them. So it's quite intricate, but we always thought, like, we have to be careful so that it's not taken like a children's play, because if you're going to see it, I mean, this teddy bear, Judy Garland, he's cursing all the time.
Terrible mouth.
Really, I mean, really cursing all the time. So language-wise, it was sort of challenging the audience. But also subject-wise, I didn't know how this would, unfold to a younger audience, or or what is a younger audience also, how young is a younger audience, and all that, So it was just open, and it had a lot of people coming to see it and saying, I'm going to come tomorrow with my children, or with my nieces, and finally it was really well received by younger audiences. Yeah.
Björn, you had a comment?
Ja, ich finde das sehr interessant, weil mein Stück habe ich auch nicht als Jugendstück geschrieben.
To me, it's very interesting because I didn't write the concept of my piece wasn't a piece to young people either.
Mein Verleger, also meine Verleger, my publishers said, "Oh, fine, it's a piece for young people."
And my public, also, yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
no.
Now you have to
Was a
say it in
trick.
German.
You won.
So,
Nein.
Jon,
Gut.
did you write it for young people or?
No.
No, exactly.
No.
So,
Und ich glaube aber, um das noch zu Ende zu führen, ich glaube, dass das ganz wichtig ist, dass das nämlich gewährleistet, dass man junge Leute ernst nimmt.
But just to finish that, I think it's very important that you take this really serious. And that was what?
Dass man junge Leute ernst nimmt.
That you take young people seriously.
Ja.
so the last Amy's question goes to you as well. How was it received? Although you didn't write it for young people, did they?
I only saw 2 or 3 performances, but these were the premieres, so there were mostly adults in the audience.
exactly.
So I never saw real performance for young people.
Bei meinem Stück war es schön, weil es sowohl in Jugendtheatern gespielt wurde, als auch für Erwachsene.
With my piece, it was nice because it was played in theaters for young people, as also in grown-up theaters.
Und es hat sich eigentlich das gezeigt, was ich vorhin gesagt habe, dass die jungen Leute, die das Stück sehen, viel aufgebrachter sind als die alten Leute.
And it turned out what I was into some minutes ago, that actually the young people are much more excited about it than the old people, the elder people.
Did that answer your question? Yeah. Yeah. Time for one more last. Yeah.
For Björn. Why is the dog and the pilot's son named both Bruno?
Sorry. So. Yes, ich glaube, because it's because of love.
Yeah, I think so too. I had that same thought. So I think we're gonna round up, and then we're gonna return to Mr. Trostmann. You know, trøst in Norwegian means comfort, or to comfort someone. To comfort, or trøste. Somebody called Trostmann is a man who comforts or take care. Is that also a German?
Yeah, I had a girl
equivalent?
when I went to primary school. Her name was Katrin Trostmann.
Yeah.
That's why I chose the name.
Yeah. And he's also quite clear of the meaning of his name, isn't he? Or her name? Or,
Yeah, of course, it's a pointe,
a-
we would
yeah,
say, in this
exactly.
context, yeah.
Yeah. So, why did you introduce Ulrike and
Yeah,
Trostmann?
I went to a boulevard theater. You have this expression in
What is a boulevard theatre?
boulevard
in
theater?
Norway?
And there is a
Cabaret? Is
Yeah,
it
there-
musical sort of?
yeah, or comedy. Yeah, there's one in Berlin at the Kurfürstendamm. And there was a very successful performance of a play called Männerhort, about men who were in a keller, in the
In
bottom
the cave?
in
of,
a
of
basement.
of a shopping mall while their women
cellar.
are shopping.
Basement for the men. Yeah.
And it was performed with the most famous German comedians like Bastian Pastewka or these guys, and also the guy who's playing the German version of The Office, Stromberg it's called.
Yeah.
And next to me there were sitting people from working for an office in Koblenz in South Germany, making their trip, Betriebsausflug,
Company trip?
Yeah.
to Berlin. And they all watched Stromberg before, and they were laughing like hell. So I got the imagination, what if people working at Ausländerbehörde make their trip
This foreigner office.
to Istanbul, to the same place where they send all these people back. So, and in the end, there is a ironical showdown in a shisha bar where they meet this guy.
Don't say anymore
Yeah,
because we're
yeah,
gonna
so
see it
that's-
tomorrow.
Yeah, that gave me the idea to deal with this side of the story.
Did it change your playthrough in a way to introduce these two characters? Is something strange happening between these two layers, so the scenes with Trostmann and Ulrike?
For me, it was, while I was writing, it was like writing two different plays.
Yeah.
This is the story of the boy, and that was more relaxing to write the other side, you know,
Yeah.
because it's more, yeah, it's a little comedian also, you know.
Yes, definitely,
It
it's
was
not-
relaxing, yeah.
Yeah. It's not like it's not full of jokes, but it's got a sort of slight comic sort of feel to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also the experiences I made with officers just came into this part, yeah. The bureaucracy, the madness of bureaucracy in general.
What they
you know.
talk about, what they eat,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
how they talk about what they eat
Exactly.
while they're sending people.
Exactly. Yeah, and they are sending them back.
Yeah.
These people are sending them back. They have a power. These fucking people, they do that.
Yeah.
Really, really. Yeah.
At the end of your play, I'm not going to give the end away because we're going to experience it tomorrow, but the end of the play, they're sitting, of course, Ulrike and Trostman in Istanbul, on this office trip. And Trostman says to Ulrike, well, you expelled him, you deported him. And she said, no, I didn't. And he says, but I did. And she says, who else? And he says, Germany. Or das Bundesrepublik Deutschlands, I guess. Not Germany, but that is the word, this is a translation to Norwegian, but that's the word you chose, not Germany, but das Bundesrepublik Deutschlands. Yes? And then it ends with her saying, the state is me, in French.
L'état c'est moi, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, because somehow he, in this case, he's the state, yeah? He's the one, yeah.
So, end there with a scene in Istanbul. We know our Turkish lion, our once Lebanese, German, now Turkish boy is walking around the streets while das Bundesrepublik Deutschlands is represented as the system in a coffee shop or shisha bar in the same city. So I think that's a nice scene to end the whole conversation with. It's been a pleasure. Now we're going to party.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.